South Korea's foreign policy is still in the early stages of formation, a little over a month after the Lee Jae-myung administration took office. A new foreign minister awaits confirmation. Top-level talks with the U.S. are in the works, and there are growing efforts to diversify Korea's diplomacy. To touch upon the latest developments, we turn to our correspondent Oh Soo-young here in the studio. Welcome, Soo-young.
Good evening, Tammy.
So, Soo-young, why don't we start with the confirmation hearing for Cho Hyun. He is the nominee for foreign minister taking place on Thursday, which is tomorrow. What do we know about him, and what will his priorities be?
Right, so Ambassador Cho Hyun is a very seasoned diplomat. He served previously as the first and second vice foreign ministers, as well as South Korea's permanent representative to the United Nations. Now, Cho Hyun also happens to be a trade negotiation expert who is behind economic cooperation and various trade initiatives with the likes of Japan, India, and Mexico. So it's likely that he'll play a rather instrumental role in handling tariff negotiations alongside the trade minister and further strengthening the South Korea-US alliance at a very critical time when it's hard to engage with the Trump administration. Now, amid pressure coming from Washington officials to offer more financially from the South Korean side outside the existing agreement on sharing the cost of stationing US troops on the Korean Peninsula, Seoul's foreign ministry has simply said that it's communicating with the US on ways to further develop the alliance. So once Cho is inaugurated, setting the course of these negotiations will be a priority for him. And, well, in his comments over the past month, Cho has indicated that he will aim to strengthen the South Korea-US alliance, but at the same time broaden Seoul's realm of foreign policy beyond its traditional partners. So his time at the UN would definitely prove valuable in expanding Korea's multilateral diplomacy. Now, Cho is also expected to support the Lee administration's more dovish position towards engaging with North Korea, supporting renewed dialogue between Washington and Pyongyang, among other things. So he first has to have his nomination confirmed, of course, so we're going to have to see how that goes on Thursday.
Well, it's clear leadership is needed to steer South Korea's foreign diplomacy, not just by the minister, but by the top level. Now, President Lee and U.S. President Donald Trump are yet to meet. How likely is it that a bilateral summit is taking place within the month in July?
Well, based on my highly personal opinion and some of experts that I've spoken to, a July summit is looking more and more unlikely, Tammy. And, well, after initially hinting that a summit could happen next week, the South Korean presidential office has now simply said it's closely communicating with Washington, so we don't really know what that means clearly. And this comes after plans for a high-level visit by U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio were cancelled earlier this month, reportedly due to his other priority engagements in the Middle East. Now, Rubio's visit was expected to lay the groundwork for a summit in the coming weeks, and now we're not really hearing much from either side that's concrete. And with President Trump's new deadline for tariff negotiations set for August 1st, there's growing pressure for Seoul to procure a meeting as soon as possible. However, with Trump's attention now divided between Russia and the Middle East, observers say more realistic windows for the first E-Trump meeting would be around September, and now that would be around the time of the UN General Assembly in New York, or the APEC summit in South Korea's Gyeongju in October. For now, the two presidents have only spoken on the phone in the days after Lee Jae-myung took office.
Right. Soo-young, in the meantime, though, it looks like there's been some progress on a regional diplomacy. Tell us more.
Right. So President Lee Jae-myung has made it clear that he's trying to diversify South Korea's diplomacy beyond the scope of its traditional partners, and it's also traditionally security-focused interests. And this includes holding a stronger presence at multilateral forums, as we saw at the ASEAN Regional Forum last Thursday and Friday, held in Malaysia. South Korea and ASEAN adopted a new 5-year plan of action, laying the groundwork for deeper political, security, economic, and socio-cultural relations.
We usually expect Korea to be that standard setter and to help us in terms of building our regional frameworks on digital economy, on cybersecurity, on, say, renewable energy in the future, energy resiliency, right? No, that's one. So standard setting. Second is, of course, how Korea is a leader in technology. So infrastructure and funding, that's something that's complementary to ASEAN. And then last but not least, of course, Korea is also being seen as a reliable and rising option that is politically safe, friendly. There is no chance that Korea will be seen as troublesome or geopolitically difficult to work with, unlike other countries at this moment, right?
As Foreign Minister nominee Choi awaits parliamentary approval, First Vice Minister Park Eun-ju, he led the delegation to Malaysia. But despite his deputy status, we saw him hold a high-level trilateral meeting with the US and Japan's top diplomats, expressing their will to deter North Korea's nuclear threat. And he also raised the agenda in various discussions throughout ASEAN-related forums. So it's been seen as a successful first start to South Korea's push for diplomatic diversification under the new government, and the first Vice Minister being Park Eun-gu. I keep getting confused with his name, so sorry about that, Tammy.
That's all right. It's still early days, but hopefully there'll be continued progress on multilateral diplomacy. As we all know, South Korea is set to chair the APEC summit down in Gyeongju at the end of the year in October. Thank you for coming in today, Soo-young.
Thanks for having me, Tammy.